All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to another DevTest Community webcast, and thank you so much for joining. Today we're going to be covering the TDM portal. It's going to cover the new UI and data generation on demand. Today we have Donald Gall, who is the Engineering Services Architect for the product, presenting. If you have any questions while Donald is going through his presentation, you can enter them into the Q&A box at the bottom right-hand corner, and we will get to the questions when there's a pause in the presentation. At the end, we will also be opening up the line for verbal questions, so if you prefer to ask your question that way, you can wait until the end of the session and we'll open it up at that point. Okay, go ahead, Don, you can get started.
All right, well, thank you, Melanie. I appreciate that. So for everyone out there, thank you for joining. And again, good day, good evening, good afternoon, depending on the time zones that you're in. So as Melanie mentioned, we're here to talk about the new TDM web portal. We're going to discuss the new UI and doing some data generation. So today, as the agenda goes, we're going to give a little bit of background, talk about the pros as to why we're moving away from the old client, moving to a new web portal. Then we're going to step through and look at the overview, going through the simple use case, walking through what you would have to do in the old DataMaker UI, the thick client, and what you'd have to do in the web portal, talk about some of the changes. And then we're going to go ahead and do a demo walkthrough, go through some slides to kind of walk through what we're going to go through in the live demonstration, do a little step-by-step, and then we're going to do a live demo and walk through a simple use case of doing some data generation and doing some data publishing. So as I mentioned, so a little bit of a background. So some of you, have been working with Test Data Manager. You'll know that the DM UI is a thick client. It's based on Power Builder. There's been some performance issue and scalability issues because of that, being a 32-bit app. Then we also have the Test Data on Demand portal, which is built on Silverlight, and not as scalable as we would need it to be for our enterprise customers. So our dev teams went to the drawing board and decided to go ahead and build out the web-based UI, and been taking it kind of a piecemeal approach. As those of you who've been working with Test Data Manager, it's a large suite of tools between fast data masker, subsetting, data generation, etc. So the first part of the portal that's coming out is basically data generation and self-service, and the Shredder utility, which I'll talk a little bit about, but that's not going to be part of the demo. But the portal UI is Java-based, 64-bit architecture, so there's been a lot of enhancements being brought into it to go ahead and resolve some of the performance issues we have been having with the 32-bit client. So hopefully, as things go across, we'll keep making it better and better as with each new release that comes out. So as I mentioned in an overview, so with the old DataMaker client, so for a simple data gen setup, you basically would go into DataMaker, you create your project, your data group, your data sets, your data pools, register your tables, go ahead and use you would edit your data pool, edit the data properties, and use Data Painter to go ahead and set up your rules so that you can generate your synthetic data. If you decided you needed some variables to do it, you would go ahead and create your variables. And then, of course, you would use ARD, which is Agile Requirements Designer, to go ahead and create the web form and associate it to the data pool, and then keep it into Test Data on Demand. Now, in the portal, some similar, but for those of you familiar with TDM, you create your target and source profiles in the beginning before you actually open up the client. With the portal, you create your connection profiles within the portal window. So that's one of the things to do first or after you create the project. That first and second step, it's depending on how you want to do it. It's not demanding. When you create the project, you don't need to have a connection profile set up. You can create your project, as you'll see, and then go ahead and create your connection profiles. But when you go to register objects, of course, you're going to need a connection profile because it's going to be required in order to connect to the database to pull in the tables that you want to register to that project. Then, of course, you can create your variables. And again, creating variables, creating data generators, those two can be swapped too. You can create your data generators and then create your variables, as you'll see when we go through the live demo or in the screenshots that follow. There's a variables button within the data generator. And the data generator basically is your data pool. So, so as far as the architecture goes, you have your project, your version, and then the data pool within the portal. Unlike within the old Data Maker UI, where you have your project and your version, and then you have a data group, a data set, and a data pool. Within the portal, they more or less streamlined the architecture. So when you create your data generator, you're creating that data pool, and you're setting everything up from there. And then, of course, once you create your data generator and you create your rules, you go into ARD, create your web form associated to the data pool, and then you have your, again, your in the portal, it's called self-service, and you have your self-service flow set up. So when we go through and we do the demo, as you can see, we're going to walk through, we're going to create a project. We're going to open up the Manage Project window. We're going to click on New Project. We're going to give it a project name and set that up, save that. And then we're going to go through and create a connection profile. In here, we're going to give a name. We have to determine what database we're going to be looking to get. So we'll set that up. We'll give the server name, the port, the database name, and then, of course, the user ID and password. Now, one little thing is for those who are working with TDM with the Data Maker UI, if you have your profile set for, I wish I could say this slow, DSN lists as opposed to DNS, DSN lists, then the portal will actually pick those up. But if you use no DBC connections or anything like that, those profiles do not get picked up by the portal. The portal's using JDBC versus the Data Maker UI using ODBC. But if you set it up with the Easy Connect strings and you do DSN-less connections, then it will pick up the information. And you would just have to open it up, resave it, and the profile is there for you. You don't have to go through and type everything all in again. And then after that, and then the next step will be we're going to go ahead and add some objects. So we'll go ahead and select our project. We'll go ahead and on the objects, we'll go to register new objects. We'll go ahead and select the object type, and I'll kind of briefly talk through some of the different object types that are available. In this case, we're going to do tables for a database. Then we go ahead and select that connection profile. And here, as I mentioned, here's where we're going to need the connection profile. So we set that up, and then of course we select schemas, and then that will pull up a list of tables that you want to register, and then you can select the tables that you want to register, and then we can move on to the next step, which would be the data generator. So from here, once you create your add your objects, you can also create a generator straight from there. And if you choose to, or if you want to, you can click on, as you see on the left-hand page, you can click on generators, and then you can also create a new generator from there. And then that will open up, give it a name, it's associated to a project and a description, and then you save it. And then basically we'll save the generator and start you down the path to the next step, which we will go ahead and then from here, tables that we have registered, we will go ahead and select the tables and bring them over, add the rows, create the rules, use Data Painter to create the rules, and we'll walk all through that and set that up. And then from there, we'll go ahead and, as you can see, the final piece will be to go ahead and click on the Publish button and actually publish the data and generate that syntactic data from the final standpoint. So I can see the window's a lot cleaner. There's the variables button. So as you're creating you're going through your data generator, creating your rules. If you feel you need variables, you can click on that button. It will automatically open up the variables and allow you to create your variables from there. And so you don't have to go back and forth. The buttons are right there for you to go through, just like as if you were adding your objects. You can just click on the Add Create Generator, and it will automatically go ahead and kick you into the generator window to go ahead and create. So without further ado, let's go ahead and actually do it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop. Melanie, you see it? Because I know everybody's on mute. So
I do see it, yes.
Okay. All right. So for everybody out there, so this is the portal login screen. So when you open it up, I'm going to minimize this real quick. So when you install it, you have your shortcut right there on your desktop. You double click on it, and then we'll go ahead and open up the portal screen. And then of course this is the old legacy test data on demand. So we're going to come in here. We're going to log in. And then that's going to take you to the main page where you'll see you can select your projects. You have your modeling. So you can see you have your objects and variables as we were all talking about before. So here I'm going to go ahead and, let me minimize this a little bit so that I can get this sprocket. The speaker icon from the WebEx was covering up, so I couldn't get to it. So we're going to go ahead and click on the sprocket. We're just going to go ahead and pull up all the existing projects that you might have, and then we're going to go ahead and create a new project. So we're going to click on New, and now I'm going to enlarge this a little bit. So we're going to give it a name. Okay, just a quick description. So of course we have the version. And then we're going to come down and we're going to save the project. And as you see, the project's been saved. There's our new project. There's our new version. So we can now close out of that. And then we can come up here. We can select a new project. And once we select it, now we can come over to our objects. And then we can register objects. But what did I forget? I need a connection profile. Now I have connection profile set, so I could register objects now, but to follow the proper procedures, we're going to go ahead and click on configuration. We're going to click on connection profiles. And as you see, here's my connection profiles. I'm going to go ahead and click on new profile. I'm going to walk through the process of creating a profile for you so you can see it really isn't that hard. Oh, I forgot. No blanks. And of course, this is SQL Server, but as you can see, these are different databases connections that we can now create. When the portal first came out with 3.5, it really was only SQL Server and Oracle, and they have since added DB2, MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, Sybase. So there's, they've added several databases, and that's continued to grow. Oh, and Teradata, that's continued to grow as well. So we're going to give it a server name. And of course, the SQL port. I'm going to give it a database name. Now we don't have an instance, so we don't need an instance name. So the schema is going to be DBO. And of course, the username. And password. If I remember that correctly. One other thing that has been added recently was to be able to add user groups or projects to this connection profile. So that's something else that's been added. So we're going to go ahead and save this. All right, we're going to back up again. And we're just going to do a quick test. And the test was successful, so we know it works. I meant to do a test before I saved it, just to double check it, and I forgot. So apologize for that. So but now we know the profile is good. So now I'm going to come back over here to my objects. Now I can go ahead and register objects. So again, we're going to select an object type. So as you can see here, some of the object types to register. For those of you who might be familiar with the older versions of TDM, we used to have an OEM agreement with Portis to allow us to do non-relational data. But now we have our shredder component, which allows us to go ahead and pull in data from an XSD format or an XML format or from a WSDL, create request response pairs that can also be used with our with the integration to service virtualization. Of course, we also have JSON that we can pull in from a delimited CSV file. So if you have an Excel CSV file, you can go ahead and do it from here. And of course, if you have just a regular Excel file, you can pull data in from there. So we're going to go ahead and select table for the database. We need to select connection profile. So I'm going to go ahead and select the profile that I just created. And of course the schema, which is going to be DBO. And now it pulls back all of the tables that we're looking for. So now you can either do a search up here, and it will pull the tables up. You can select it. You can do another search. Select it. Oh, I guess I missed that one. Select it, and then if you were to go ahead and just clear out the search window and pull up all the tables again, you will see that the highlights are there for the ones that you searched on. So you can basically do a search, highlight them, and it'll stay. And then if you can come back here, if you want to select some other ones, you can. So we're going to go ahead and select those two. We're going to register them. And now we have two tables that are registered. So again, the hierarchy is create your project, you have your version, register your tables, or in this case, objects. Here are your variables. You can go ahead and create variables if you know what you might need going forward. Most of the times, I would imagine, at least from working with customers, that's always an afterthought. But as you can see, here's the create generator. So I can either click right on here and open up the generator window, or I can click over to the left. So I need to create a generator. It's a new project, so I'm going to go ahead and create a generator. And of course, it's automatically associated to the project you have selected. So we're going to save that. And again, it opens up straight into the generator window. So now we're going to click on the generator window. And here's the tables that we have selected. So I'm going to double click on the table, and that's going to pull the table in. Now, just as in the Data Maker UI, when you right-click, you edit properties, you selected your table, and populate it. You had to add a row. Same thing. You do the same thing here. You add a row, and then you have your options here. You can cut and paste. You can open up Data Painter. You have your functions. So for here, we're just going to go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and click next, type in next for this one. Designation, we're just going to go ahead and type something in here. And then for first name, now first name we're going to go ahead and use the data painter. And we're going to click on the paintbrush. And that's going to open up Data Painter. And we're going to pull up a random list of values. And now we all know that we got your seed list that come with Data Maker, so we're going to go ahead and select seed list. Now when you select it, it automatically populates and opens up the seed list. And again, the search window is there. So if I want to look at first name, I can select first name. Now, of course, in this window, I need to add the seed column. So I need to come in here and put 1 because I want the first name. And then, of course, this is always just like in Data Maker. You click on Validate. Oh, it's going to fail. I always forget the perk null. So you got to always change the perk null. Oh, this is, oops, missed a letter. And that's why we validate. And there's Bob. So Bob comes back, so we know we have our first name. So now I can go ahead and do an insert. And then we can do the same thing with the last name, job title, so forth and so on. So I'm gonna stop right here and pull up the my other project, so that you can and then so I can show you some other features. So this other project. So here's the data generator for this other project that I have created. So I'm going to click on people. And as you see, this one is full, as you saw in the screenshot. But the good thing about this is, so what I wanted to show you here was, if I needed to add another row, I can very easily add another row. And when I click here, I can go ahead and I can copy down. I can copy column right, or I could just open this up and do a Control-C to copy, and then Control-V to paste. And the same thing here. Or I can click up here, and I could do copy column down. I could do copy column down all, and it'll populate down. And the same thing here. So here you have your options. You can copy row down. You can copy column down, so that you don't have to. Or you can cut and paste, and then make adjustments. Or you can just open up Data Painter again. And create a whole nother rule and use Data Painter to create your rule. What happened here? Oh, I don't know what happened there. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. All right, and so now we have our table set up. We have our rules set up. So now we're going to go ahead and do some publishing. I'm going to publish some data. So here we have our table. Now, of course, again, we need the connection profile. So we're going to select our connection profile. Select our schema. Now we can set the repeat. Or if we wanted to, we can do an add range and just let it generate a range from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. You can manually set it, or you can, like I said, you can open up Data Painter. And you can open up, add range. And you can set a number, do a min-max value. that will go ahead and just, you won't have to worry about it. It'll just randomly generate a value for you. In this case, we'll use a 5. Let's set my email address. And then you have a choice. Now, you can go ahead and do a publish now. You can do a schedule, in which case then you can come over, you can change the date, you can change the times, and you can actually schedule this to run from here. And you also have other options here. So if you're publishing data and it finds duplicate data in the data target, you can tell it to continue, you can tell it to update, or you can just have it exit the publishing. In this case, if there's anything there, we're just going to have it update. But if it generates duplicate data, we're going to have it exit. So I'm going to go back and select now. And then we're going to go ahead and select publish. All right. Then see, you get success. We can click on, well, I was going to click on that job. I guess I took too long to talk. So, but you can very easily just come over here to request, copy down, click on generators, and that was 7. As you can see, the job is completed already, and it's published our data. So now we'll go ahead, we can go back into Data Maker, and we'll go ahead and take a look at our target. So we publish the people. And so we'll go ahead and bring people up in here. We'll go ahead and run it. And there's our data. So we generate the data into our table. So now we have our synthetic data. Now, one of the things, I had upgraded my system, so I will show you when I will go ahead in here and open up ARD. This is just a simple form. But you create the web form in ARD and associate it back to, as you can see, it's just in this case, we're doing a make system data because we're generating synthetic data. If you were doing a test match, of course, those you probably already know, you would do a find system data. So you just basically set this up, and then this pulls it back in and associates it to the necessary project and data group, etc. And then just set that up. And then that's basically what allows it to run. And then in the new portal, you see we have our service flows. So this shows you the service flows here. And then you have our data catalog here, which this is equivalent to the old tiles that you would see in the data maker. So here's your tiles here. This is your data catalog, and here's your tiles in here. And then you would click on this, and then that would basically start the flow. But this is going to error out, and I apologize. But I had upgraded my system, and for some reason my flow isn't working from within the portal, so I have to look at that. But that's where, this is basically where it would all run, just as if it would run in test data on demand. The portal would run in here. But again, everything is in one portal, and that's basically what we're shooting for, is to have all the functionality in one portal to look at and work with. You create your projects, you set up your modeling, your objects, your variables. You create your data generators, which basically equate to your data pools. You have your self-service flows. Now, right now, this doesn't have a connection to ARD. That's coming down the road. So right now, not all the functionalities in the portal, but this is, like I said, as I mentioned previously, the data generation part and publishing data is in Shredder piece component is in, so that you can go ahead and use Shredder to go ahead and generate data. And some of the, if you did everything from Data Maker, the tiles would populate back over, and they will run. If you have the older, the 3.6 portal, there is a patch. There was a bug with the 3.6 portal that the old forms and tiles from the old test data on demand didn't populate correctly. So there has been a fix for a customer, and that's actually being tested right now, so that you can actually pull them up in the data catalog or service catalog here and run them from here. So, and that's you know, in the configuration side, the other thing that's being added is the users and groups. So you have user management that's being added. Just to kind of give you a little bit more background of what all is here. So you have your users, just as you do have, you know, your security tab and users and groups in the Data Maker UI, and you have your users. You can create users. You have your roles, which are essentially your groups, and you can create groups as needed. You also have your ALM credentials and integration, which I don't have ALM set up. Of course, your mail server configuration and your DevTest portal configuration. So that is all that can be set up from here as well. So when you do request response pairs and you want to publish it to a virtual service, you can do that automatically. Once you create that, you basically click a button to say publish, and it will use the DevTest portal configuration to go ahead and actually publish the request response pairs straight to the virtual service and upload them. And as I mentioned, there's more functionality that will be coming down the line, and eventually, I don't know what the timeline is, but if any of you want an understanding of the timeline, you can let me know. You can send an email to Melanie, and she can get it to me, and I will get with our product management folks to kind of get a timeline. I do know it's sometime next year. I just don't know when, but that's when the plan is. All the functionality is going to be in the portal, and the thick client, as we know it, will go away, and everything will be through the portal, which should make things easier. We have customers who are wanting to provide access to just the portal, and you know, of course, with firewalls and everything like that. For those of you who may have done it already, with Silverlight, and you need to open up both port 80 and 8090 for the service layer. But with the portal, you'd only have to open up one port for direct access. So it will make things so much easier from the security standpoint of what needs to be opened up through a firewall to provide external access. And then, of course, you can selectively provide access based on logins. So that, I believe, is most of what I was going to cover. I think I did it rather quickly. I was trying to slow down, but I'll take any questions.
Okay, we do have a few questions in the Q&A, and for now I'll read them out verbally. A reminder, if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask verbally, you can press *6 on your telephone keypad to ask those. In the meantime, we'll get to questions that are already in the Q&A box. So we have a question in from Adam Topper. Is it possible to copy objects across projects in the new UI version?
That's a good question. I know we had issues with that in the older versions. So I don't believe we're working on the versioning but I don't believe that's there yet. I know that's on the roadmap to be able to copy between the objects. So I can definitely find out as to when that might be available to go ahead and set up the copy between projects. I know we can do it. That was an issue with DataMaker, and that was provided. And then they added the copy from remote repository in the DataMaker UI. So I will follow up on that one, but I don't think that's available just yet.
Okay. We had another question from Felipe Hernandez. Are there any plans on adding an option to see all the sequences created with the formula at next val seek name like there are for variables?
Let's say that again. So we're talking about the generators?
Not sure. Says, are there any plans on adding an option to see all the sequences created with the formula, and then it's @ symbol, next val, and then in parentheses, seek name, parentheses, @?
From the validation standpoint, you're talking about all the possible variables that could be generated?
He said at the data painter.
Right, at the data painter window. So in here. So is that basically when we click on validate? So when we click on validate, Felipe, is that what you're requesting?
I'm going to wait for him to put a clarification in the box, and we'll move on to the next. Oh, he says, I'm looking to see all the sequence names created.
Yeah, I don't think that'll do that now. I could take that as a takeaway.
Yeah.
So basically,
okay.
When he's looking at the validate, and when you click on the validate, it's going to pull up all the sequence names that could possibly be created.
Yeah, he's asking if we're going to be adding it. Felipe, we're going to follow up with product management to see whether it's on the roadmap, but I don't think we have that information as of right now. Okay. Going down to the next question from Damien. Is there any way to check seeds columns from the data painter?
See what's in the columns?
Seeds columns.
Right. So
yeah.
In other words, when you select your seed list, you want to look at what's in the columns?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to open up the seed list directly to look at it. You won't see it in the data painter window. All that you would see would be when you select, you would see the number of columns, and the number of columns are associated to the title. So this says first name, title, gender, and there's 3 columns. The names are listed in column order. So the first column would be first name, title, second column, gender would be third column. But it doesn't, it won't show you the data. You'd have to open up the seed list itself to look at the data.
Okay. Okay. Adam asks, how does it handle multiple simultaneous requests?
From the service, from the data catalog, it's as far as I know, it's multi-tenant. I'm only one user, so I haven't tried to open up a browser from 2 different users to run requests. But that was one of the issues that we had with TDOT. That is being, that was being worked within the portal, is to be able to handle the multi-requests from different users.
Okay, Monica asks, how do you provide test data to virtual service using TDM?
Okay, so that's talking about the request response pairs, as I mentioned. So you would set up in here, go in the DevTest portal. You would go ahead and configure your DevTest portal, and then when you when you create your project and you go to register your objects, you would basically select the request response pairs, and then when you do that, it'll allow you to go ahead and pull in your XML files and set that up, and then import the data, and then you can generate the request response pairs from there, and then there's a publish button. I don't have any XML data to show you, but there will be a publish button that you can publish it, and you can select the virtual service, and it would publish it automatically to. Now they are working on. I believe they are working on, because that selection is a manual step to go ahead and publish. But I believe they are working on a REST API access so that it can be automated. That was one of the things that came up with regards to some of our other integrations, to be able to automate a whole flow. That was missing. So I believe there was a REST API that was being, if it's not completed, it's in the works, so that you can call the REST API and automatically, when you generate the request response pairs, automatically publish it, and automate the whole process.
Okay, thank you. We have another question in from Martha. How is a change made on the repository connection for the TDM portal? There is a file, but not a configuration tool as for the TDOD.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about, instead of running the TDOT configure editor to make any changes, where would you make your changes for the portal? So that, unfortunately, is, and there's been the discussions about that. That is, let me make sure I'm in the right. That is in a config file that you would have to open up for right now. So if you look at the application.properties file, you'll see this is where you have all your configurations. So if I scroll up to the top, there's your repository connections. And of course your data, your username, password, and then this password's encrypted. Of course, you'd want to be encrypted, but it's also encrypted by us, so you can decrypt this password if you wanted to, or you can encrypt another password and place it in there if you wanted to change the user that you were going to use to connect with. And of course, if you wanted to change your database, you can change your database. And then everything else that's in here would be LDAP, if you want to connect up to LDAP. So similar to DataMaker, although DataMaker you just had the one area, you would select the group, and then all the users need to be affiliated with that group. Somewhat similar here, you still have to set up the group, but you also need to provide the attribute information, and then the object class, depending on what's set. So you would need to, you can use an LDAP browser to go ahead and look at what's available and how things are set up in an environment, and that would allow you to go ahead and provide the proper parameters. There is some documentation out there, and of course, if you you have your port set up 389 for the standard LDAP port, and then of course, if you need to do LDAP-S, then of course you would change that to, I believe it's 636. And then of course you need a user ID and password to log into the Active Directory and make the authentication, or the connection, I should say. You make the connection, and then the authentication happens. And of course, this password, of course, is in clear text, but it could be encrypted just as with the database password above. So it doesn't have to be in clear text. And again, you can see you also have your ALML integration URL there that you can update directly. You have your Javelin path, so that you can set up Javelin. And then your other areas, your service areas, most of these would just stay as default, unless, of course, you were bouncing between the old legacy TDOT and the portal. You would make some adjustments here. So if you were going to use the old portal publishing engine, you would have to come in. You would come in here and make some adjustments. There's parameters here. I believe it's use data maker to publish and set to false. You would set that to true, and that would use the old remote publish engine to go ahead and publish your data. So anyway, so to answer the question, the application.properties file is where you would make your adjustments, and then you would save it, restart the service, it'll pick up the new configurations.
Okay. We have another question in from Felipe. With this version, are you going to deprecate the creation of personal seed lists?
To my knowledge, no. But I will have to follow up on that to find that for sure. We'll check with the product owner and determine if that's going to happen or not. But to my knowledge, no. I don't think we'll be deprecating anything until the entire product is moved over into the portal. And even then, I don't know if we'll be deprecating creating your own seed list. I think that's an added feature, or a necessary feature, I should say, not an added feature.
Okay. Another question in from Cynthia. It seems to me that in Data Maker, you don't need multiple data pools, but the work is in the portal. Define column formula, function, etc. And for the connection, you define the profile for each target environment. What if you have a different source?
What if you have a different source for the data generator or for your objects? Where's the reference?
So let me read it one more time and see if it makes more sense. It seems to me that in Data Maker, you don't need multiple data pools, but the work is in the portal. And for the connection, you define the profile for each target environment. What if you have a different source?
Well, the connection profile, you can set it up for target or source.
Okay.
So if you're doing test matching, so of course if you're doing data generation, then of course you're going to be generating data, and there may be data already there. There may be test data there, but if you're doing test matching to copy it, then you would definitely have a connection profile that would go to that source, if you will, to pull data from there and publish it into your data pool. So your connection profile would point to that source. So you would have a connection profile for whichever database you wanted to connect to, whether you would be publishing to or whether you'd be doing that test matching from.
Oh, she's saying at Macy's we allow users to select source and target.
Oh, but you also use variables, so you can create your variables, and you can still use your variables for that information. Because if I'm not mistaken, that's what you use your variables for, and then you can create your variables in your tiles.
Okay. Alfredo asks, when you are registering objects, is there a way to select all objects?
That's a good question. I never tried to select all. So I apologize. I don't know. I haven't tried I've only just basically gone in and selected just a few tables that I was going to work with. So I would imagine, since we can do the control select and select multiple, we should be able to select. That's not what I wanted. I would imagine we would be able to do like a shift select and select multiple at a time. I do not remember seeing a button for select all. So I think you'd have to do maybe a select. So I'm going to do shift select. Yeah, no, I guess not, because it doesn't look like a shift select works. No, it's only unless you might be able to do that. There you go. So it's the square up here, and that will select everything. So you can't select a group, but you can select all. That answer your question?
Yes, I believe so. Let me just finish typing this. Okay. Okay, we have a few more questions in here. Cynthia asks, can Portal handle subsets?
No, subsetting has not been added into the portal yet. Subsetting and masking are on the roadmap. Right now it's just data generation, but that is definitely on the roadmap, which is why we have the portal. The portal is kind of new and coming into being, but we still need the other areas to work with. So subsetting and masking and everything is still there, and the old DataMaker UI is still around for the integration with all the other components, because the portal doesn't have that integration yet.
Okay. One more question from Martha. Will the default publish concept continue to exist when publishing from a flow?
Yes.
Okay. Great. I think that's it. Okay, so it looks like we're done answering all the questions. Just so you all know, we will be posting the recording for today's session in the community later today. And with that recording, we're going to be posting the slides from today's session along with the Q&A transcript that will have all of the questions and answers that were asked on today's session compiled into one document. So keep an eye out for that later today. If you have any additional questions following this session, you can feel free to either reach out to myself or Don, or you can just post a question on the community, and we'll get to it as quickly as we can and get you an answer on that. I'm putting out a poll. If you guys could please place a vote on this poll. We want you to rate the quality of today's webcast topic. We really value your input as far as what topics we should be delivering to the community. So if you can share your opinion on that, we will take your feedback and apply it to future sessions, maybe have more of like this, or focus on something else that you guys are more interested in. If you have any ideas for a webcast, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will make sure we get that scheduled out for you. Other than that, we have another webcast coming up for service virtualization running on Docker on September 29th. If you'd like to attend that, you can head to the community and RSVP and let us know that you'll be coming. All right, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we hope to see you on the next session. Thank you so much, Don, for presenting today. It was great. We really appreciate you giving the presentation to the community.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks again for joining.